9. Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues at Damascus, so that if he found any who belonged to the way, men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. Now as he was going along and approaching Damascus, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" He asked, "Who are you, Lord?" The reply came, "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting."
My change of heart probably began the day Stephen was stoned. I didn't actually throw anything, but I held their coats approvingly while they silenced the heretic. You have to understand, I was a Pharisee, strict and particular. Our members had a problem with Jesus, the things he did and said. He was an out-and-out blasphemer and a troublemaker to boot. He stayed local initially. Galilee often goes in for that brand of delusional maniac stroke showman. Something in the water, maybe it's that fishy odour affecting them. But being a Jew, he must visit Jerusalem. I studied there, though not at the time. A couple of Passovers back, his disruptiveness came to a head. I was still back in Tarsus, so I witnessed none of this. But I understand that poor old Poncho got caught in the middle. There was no way Caiaphas would tolerate this sort of caper. Making out he was the long-promised Messiah was one thing, but angry outbursts in the temple, taking issue with sacrificial arrangements and temple taxes, teaching all comers there, right under the high priest's nose, would not go unremarked or unpunished. He supposedly had said he wouldn't change a jot or tittle of our law, but that wasn't how it looked to a faithful, well-educated Jew such as myself. We were in the right, no question. We knew the mind of God. We had his back. Some wavered. It was rumoured even Nicodemus had shown interest in Jesus' thinking, though I doubt he'd admit it. But when the Romans obliged by crucifying him, we assumed the northern splinter group was eradicated, until his associates made some ridiculous claim that he had survived the cross. Instead of just slinking back to Fish Central, they were suddenly like men possessed, gathering more converts daily. Rabbi Gamaliel said, "We'd never stamp this out if it was of God's doing." But that was surely unthinkable, dangerous nonsense. I was zealous, ruthless even, in rooting out sympathisers. Those Jesus groupies just had to go. So arming myself with high priestly letters of authority, I headed for Damascus to demand synagogues hand over any suspects. They were everywhere. We were practically there when it happened. Out of nowhere, a light as dazzling as the sun hit me straight in the face. I fell off my horse. Then I heard a male voice asking why I was persecuting him. I could see nothing. Had no idea who could be speaking. My companion sounded in disarray, but afar off. So I asked, "Who?" And the unknown, unseen person said, "Jesus, whom you are persecuting." Time stood still then as I lay in the road like a beetle on its back. He told me to go into the city, and then he was gone. Weird. Barely covers the entire chain of events. I was led like an infant. My companions, they heard something, but saw nothing. And for 3 days, no improvement. Until Ananias came. He'd had a vision too. He admitted to me later he didn't want to come, but the Lord said I was the right man to spread the gospel to non-Jewish people. What? 1 minute, I'm proud as punch to be heretic finder general, the next, headhunted by the opposition. So my only possible conclusion was Jesus must be the Messiah and God's Son. Oh, those long, dark, hungry days between the Damascus Road and Ananias. I never stopped. As I prayed, thinking again, ashamed, horrified at my actions. Rabbi Gamaliel's words rang in my head. Had I made God too small, assumed he had nothing new to say? It had seemed too crazy. How could a crucified criminal be significant, let alone? In the blackness, all my self-righteous certainty seemed indefensible. Even God's weakness, I was discovering, is far stronger than any human power. I, after all those years, had misunderstood God. All my doings, loveless and merciless, were consequently worthless. I was overjoyed to see again, to be baptized, to be, a little warily, welcomed. I recognized for the first time my self-exalting, destructive pride, the good that I had failed to do, convinced that I was right. I was anything but. How could the Lord forgive me? Let alone decide I was the right man. Just in the wrong job. The unreformed Saul never thought he was a failure, nor did he see his ruthlessness as sin. On the contrary, with the senior temple hierarchy right behind him, he believed he was simply protecting God's interests. It would take direct intervention of the most dramatic and inexplicable variety to change his mind. The opposite of faith, it seems, is not so much doubt as certainty. And being certain, well, that was a hallmark of pride, an arrogant self-reliance which lies at the root of all sin. Saul, the persecutor, was now to become Paul, an apostle to the non-Jewish peoples of the Mediterranean basin. No doubt the instantaneous nature of his volte-face unnerved other leaders of the emerging church. How were they going to work alongside someone from whom they had been deliberately hiding? And if the change of circumstances was difficult for them, becoming a servant of Christ was never going to prove easy for Paul. While his Damascus Road experience highlighted the error of his ways, he still found Jesus' new but more excellent way endlessly challenging. Still, the loving forgiveness of a God who'd somehow seen the good in him helped him to persevere and carry forward the Church's mission.